Hello and welcome to day 3 of our Make for Prosperity week. Again with 5 finalists presenting their solutions and competing for prizes and mentorship worth up to $1 million. If you're just joining today and missed the first 2 episodes, don't worry, you still find all previous pitches on our website makingprosperity.com. Today's topic and challenge is innovation for inclusive trade, addressing the question, how can rural communities increase their access to new supply chains and markets in order to create better livelihoods for themselves? And of course, we also have a high-level keynote to kick off the show and warm you up for our topic. Lisa McAuley is CEO of the Global Trade Professionals Alliance, and she will be addressing the question, will the global crisis paralyze rural communities when it comes to trade?
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to the Mohammed bin Rashid Initiative for Global Prosperity digital event. It is a pleasure to participate in this online forum, and thank you very much for the invitation and to all the participants for tuning in. I hope you and your families are well amidst these globally difficult times. The suggested title for my talk was to answer the question, will the global crisis paralyze rural communities when it comes to trade? The easy answer is yes. The intricate answer is it depends. And the optimistic answer is no. The reality of the world's rural communities, especially of those engaged in global trade, is as complex as the questions posed. A rural community in an OECD country is not the same as one in sub-Saharan Africa. A rural community that produces solar energy is not the same as one that subsists on crops. A rural community with a young workforce is not the same as one with an aging population. A rural community with low levels of women's participation participate in business. When it comes to global trade, a gloomy action as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Investors have moved around 90 billion out of emerging markets, which is the largest outflow ever recorded. Preliminary estimates talk of at least a 50 billion decrease in merchandise. Trade and services have been significantly affected. Communities and are disruptions brought up by the pandemic underlines access to finance and upskill of innovation, productivity, and pandemic has exposed on one hand around the world and alleviate poverty have been insufficient to make them more resilient to global crisis. On the other hand, it is putting at risk of reversion the incredible achievements of the international community in the past 3 decades on inclusive trade and poverty reduction. According to estimates by the UN, before the pandemic, about 79% of the world's poor were living in rural areas. The prospects for rural communities are now even gloomier. According to the Brookings Institute, extreme poverty in the world will rise this year by about 50 million people, compared to the original 2020 forecast. As a result, they conclude that 2020 will be the first time this century that the number of poor people will rise, with developing economies and least developed countries badly affected due to the fall in commodity prices and the threat of new debt crises. On principle, these regions should be enough to renew our efforts to support rural communities around the world. There are, however, solid economic reasons to do that as well. The recovery of the global economy will only happen if it's more inclusive than it has been in the past decades. Global trade has been the most powerful force behind the reduction in world poverty rates. However, the inequalities previously mentioned, plus other structural factors such as weak rule of law or corruption in some states, have diminished the shared returns of global trade. As a consequence, we have seen some backlash against globalization now, and the return of protectionism and nationalism have hit harder the most vulnerable participants in international trade, including immigrants, youth, indigenous people, and rural women. There is, however, a byproduct of the last decades of globalization that has shown great transformation capacity and has the potential to increase inclusion in trade. Global value chains. Today, more than 2/3 of world trade occurs through these complex ecosystems that engage everything from the largest multinational corporation through to the smallest enterprise, and which are a large source of global investment flows and economic value creation. The participation of micro to small and medium enterprises in global value chains is far more limited than that of multinational corporations. However, the potential for greater participation of small and medium enterprises, including those in rural ones, is not only desirable, but absolutely necessary for the recovery of the global economy. And the reason is simple. Due to the disruption of global value chains, businesses will seek to localize their production, which entails creating closer bonds to their communities. But businesses will also seek to diversify their suppliers, which actually creates more opportunities for micro to small to medium enterprises in developing economies and least developed countries. Moreover, large businesses participating in global value chains have more opportunities to access new technologies and innovative solutions developed by small businesses, while small businesses successfully participating in global value chains can increase the value of their production and expand their markets, creating more employment opportunities and business linkages with their communities. Yet, this symbiotic relationship will not happen automatically. We need more joint efforts and aid for trade programs directed to facilitate business engagement between large and small businesses. Global value chains will not disappear due to the pandemic, but they will transform, as they have been doing for a while now. Finding the avenues to help those businesses, particularly located in rural areas, to participate in these global value chain opportunities is actually at the heart of the work that we do at the Global Trade Professionals Alliance, or the GTPA as we are known. At our organization, we are currently working on a solution to facilitate business opportunities between multinational corporations and the micro to small to medium enterprises participating in global value chains. More importantly, the solution seeks to address some of the gaps that small businesses tend to have in their supply chains with regards to what we call integrity-related standards. That is, standards to mitigate security, sustainability, and ethical behavior risks, but also enhancing diversity and inclusion. Our project, called Building Integrity in Global Value Chains, aims at designing global boilerplate integrity standards that can be used in a secure and straightforward way by both small to medium enterprises all the way up to the multinationals. This aims to increase trust, reduce costs, and create value in all operations. The need for standards to facilitate trade has been repeatedly mentioned by policy reports at the domestic and international level. However, it is also true that standards can quickly become a barrier to trade rather than a facilitator for small business. The private sector, on them, they will have to redouble. There are, as I said before, both principled and economic reasons to do so. Conditions for global trade were far from normal before the outbreak and will certainly not be normal after it recedes. While multiple businesses will have to reinvent themselves, this should not entail substituting proven sources of global prosperity creation like economic integration and free trade. Yet renewed efforts for international cooperation will be needed to lift the more vulnerable groups in rural communities in developing economies and least developed countries, including the maintaining the soundness and stability of the multilateral trading system. So to finalize, I want to go back to the original question posed at the beginning of my talk. Will the global crisis paralyze rural communities when it comes to trade? I prefer to stay in the optimistic side and say no. Yet, that is not without a warning. That answer can turn rapidly into a permanent yes if we don't make rural communities a priority in all proposed avenues for recovery of the global economy. And in depends answer, as it has been so far, it can only mean fragile achievements as we are witnessing today. Opportunities to supporting trade initiatives in rural communities are opening up. These, however, must be more innovative, sustainable, and definitely more inclusive than in the past decades. Thank you very much for joining this talk, and I wish you well.
Thank you, Lisa, for joining us and enriching our Make for Prosperity Week with your insightful presentation. Thank you. Before you now meet our 5 finalists, let's have a look at a short video introducing our Inclusive Trade Challenge.
As we progress with our lives and enjoy what society has to offer, we do not realize the impact we have on people. People who have put a tremendous effort in trying to find new ways of providing us with their goods and services. While some have been successful, others have been excluded because of who they are or where they're from.
فشغل إلهم ما في. ابن عم إلي والثاني ابن بنتي كانوا مسجونين. ليش؟ لأنه كانوا على خلاف مع المهندسين تبعين الطاقة الشمسية بدون يشغلوه، جايبين معهم ناس من برا. طيب هذول أولى من غيرهم، ليش يجيبوا ناس من برا؟
In an era where trade and connectivity are seamless, people in rural communities face extreme difficulty accessing new markets, making them especially vulnerable to volatile economic conditions, putting them and their families at constant risk of facing poverty. Protectionist measures and trade barriers by governments can easily manifest into global conflict, magnifying frustrations, spurring uncertainty, and widening the gap between those who are privileged and those who are deprived.
Promoting entrepreneurship is increasingly viewed as an effective approach to overcoming some of the challenges of economic and social inclusion. Inclusiveness and sustainability are becoming crucial considerations in the strategies and operations of companies of all sizes.
As our world continues to evolve into a global neighborhood, and people evolve into digital natives, some obstacles and constraints are preventing prosperity from reaching billions of people around the world. So, can you make it forward? If you were given the chance to change a life, what would you do? To enable the transfer of skills and knowledge, to develop resilient and connected supply chains, and to promote open and inclusive trade opportunities for all. Because we believe that access to innovation paves the way to building prosperity.
And here they are, our finalists for the Inclusive Trade Challenge. 5 creative companies, 5 innovative solutions, and only 5 minutes each. 4. Agricycle, Chap Chap, Fantine, Poket and Takachar.
My name is Josh and I'm the founder of Agricycle. We're happy to share Agricycle's solution for addressing extreme rural poverty for farmers across the world. According to the United Nations, up to 40% of all fruits that are grown in sub-Saharan Africa go to waste, and 95% of that is lost before it ever reaches a market. This opportunity gap cripples smallholder farmers' ability to rise above poverty, and it's largely due to two things. The first is a lack of access to preservation technologies, and the second is the oversaturated local markets. Agricycle's vertically integrated business model and supply chain solves all of that. First, by designing and manufacturing appropriate technologies called passive solar dehydrators. These passive dryers work without any electricity to preserve natural abundances of fruits, meaning that farmers can sell them long after when they would naturally expire. The second is by providing the skills training and certifications that smallholder farmers need in order to access global markets. And the third is that we buy these fruits directly from our farmers and create a brand and label sold in the United States. But the story is best told through Fatuma and her mother Fatima in the Kayunga Jolly Fruit Cooperative of Uganda. Both of them dry mangoes and jackfruits, but have struggled to make money since starting. That's why they joined Agricycle's cooperative and have since seen a massive change. By moving the value addition of drying fruits from a factory to the farmer level, Fatuma and Fatina have been able to make twice as much per kilogram of fruit that they dry. And also, because Agricycle buys so regularly, they're able to make 7 times the average daily wage, meaning Agricycle pays Fatuma and Fatina $15 per day. And this is just a small story in a much bigger picture of Agricycle's network of 35,000 farmers. Now, the first brand we launched with is the Jolly Fruit Co., a family of fun, ethically sourced and upcycled dried fruits with no added sugars or preservatives that are fully traceable from tree to shelf with our Find My Farm QR codes. The stickers, individually placed on every single bag at the bottom of this page, lead you to a QR code and a web page that tells you the story of the women who dried it, the farmers who grew it, and where in the world it came from. This brings the consumers much closer to the farmers, and not only allows Agricycle to sell more products, but also helps share the story of the women and where they really come from. That goes back to the founding of the Jolly Fruit Co., our first brand, and where the name comes from. A Jolly is a musical storyteller from West Africa who regales the history of a community through song and dance. In East Africa, Jolly is an idiom in Swahili, meaning what we owe each other, and we couldn't agree more. The Jolly Fruit Co. just had over $100,000 in revenue in the past 3 months since launching in February of 2020. But there's so much more to how Agricycle can scale, not just through its first brand, but by upcycling the byproducts from the dried fruits that are created in the first place. By taking the shells of coconuts and the pits of mangoes, we're able to create a sustainable charcoal and sell it under the Tropical Ignition brand. And also white labeling and using as an ingredient an alternative nutrient-dense flour we're able to draw from the pits of mangoes. We can scale into so many other lines of business using the same byproducts from these original brands, and also selling them outside of the United States, in Europe, Japan, and even local markets. Meaning Fatuma and Fatina will have reliable incomes year-round from all 3 of Agricycle's brands, regardless of where they're being sold. Now, after just 2 years, Agricycle has managed to create livelihoods for over 6,700 smallholder farmers, and 67% of them are women. We've diverted over 45,000 kilograms of food waste, saving up to 50,000 mega cubic feet in annual methane emissions. But we have the perfect team to accomplish this. From international food and supply chain experts to branding, marketing, and sales team, to our field officers and directors, we have a focus on building local teams, on connecting with each other, and on our mission, which is to eradicate extreme rural poverty. Thank you so much.
Good day. My name is Emmanuel Emodek. I'm the Managing Director of Chap Chap Africa. Meet Mama Mzungu, a single mother of 5 children. She works tirelessly to provide shelter, food, and education for her family through her small business. She is a hero to her community, as she has brought essential commodities like salt and sugar close to them, and offering 60% of these goods on credit to her customers, since they are low income earners. Despite being a hero to her community, Mom Zungu has no access to credit facilities, supply chains, denying her an opportunity to grow, thus seeing many of her ventures fail. To include businesses like hers, our solution removes the barriers that have hindered their growth for years. How do we do that? By digitizing the business processes, removing the multiple layers of distribution through creating a digitized distribution chain, allowing them to participate in offering financial services, thus leading to financial profiling of these micro and small medium enterprises. For just $5, a one-time registration fee, Mom Zungu is able to stock more of her best-selling goods, evaluate her sales performance, and accept digital payments. Importantly, her digitized business records, opening doors of credit for the first time in her life. And this is also able to earn her an extra income through offering financial services to her community. With access to markets through Chap Chap, her monthly sales have doubled and return on capital has improved compared to when she was only selling her groceries. In just months, Mom Zungu has been able to turn her business around because she has the right products and prices for her customers. As a result, her capital has grown and she is able to access credit and earn extra income through the extension of financial services to her low-income community. Mom Zungu's story as a representative of all micro and medium enterprises motivated Chap Chap to develop tools for these many entrepreneurs that are struggling like her, especially in the rural communities, where women and youth entrepreneurs struggle to access finance because they don't have no proven track records or collateral, and yet they are breadwinners in their families. We believe that through these entrepreneurs, Chap Chap's innovation will improve the lives of communities in which they live. To that effect, Chap Chap has won awards like the Prince of Charles Wells Young Entrepreneur Award for Sustainable Living. And also we have impacted lives of more than 6,000 entrepreneur families since 2018, attracting the attention of organizations like Unilever, SNV Netherlands, and international trade, thus creating more opportunities for the micro and small medium enterprises through our partnership. And that's not all. Everything is aligning to help us achieve this. Internet access at 78% in Uganda. Smartphones are getting cheaper. Technology has created a single global village, enabling Chap Chap to impact on more businesses. Partner with us to improve our product, train, and aggressively onboard the likes of Mom Zungu so that they can serve more customers without worrying about stocks out of goods. Get better margins from distributors as they are now visible to them. And for their low-income customers, offer better pricing since the multiple distribution layers have been eliminated. And also see to it that their community livelihoods improve since financial services are closer to them. To empower the likes of Mom Zungu, we seek your collaboration, as SMEs are the pillars of communities who foster wealth and job creation. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura Amado. I am the CEO and co-founder of Fantine. The coffee market is growing. Demand for high-quality beans is increasing. Companies are making huge profits out of coffee. However, on the other side of the supply chain, there is another reality. More than 40% of coffee producers around the world are living below the poverty line because they can't sell their beans above production costs. The coffee supply chain is opaque and unbalanced. It has intermediaries that don't add any real value, and despite having different qualities, the coffee price is tied to the commodity market. Today, producers receive less than 5% of a coffee cup retail price. We are here to change this. Fantine connects farmers to roasters directly, giving them visibility, market access, and the possibility to set prices based on cost. On our marketplace, roasters get to know all the information about the coffee, such as origin, harvest dates, cup profiles, sustainable practices using the farm, and the story behind the farmer. They can also easily select the coffee they are looking for based on their needs. Through our marketplace, we bridge the gap between roasters and producers, enabling them to transact without the need of using too many intermediaries. Fantine is the B2B marketplace for high quality and sustainable green beans. Our marketplace is integrated with a blockchain platform to gain scalability and ensure trust and transparency. Producers, exporters, importers, and roasters record their transactions in a secure manner, so the information about prices paid to farmers is transparent to everyone involved in the value chain. The starting point is that we give farmers digital identities. Then, through an easy user interface, they can record information about their coffee and farm. In the coffee production, there is a huge amount of data that normally goes unseen. On this data, we apply artificial intelligence to deliver key insights to help producers make better decisions in their business. On the other side of the value chain, end consumers can scan Fantine's codes in order to know the story behind their cup of coffee and to verify that the farmer is paid a fair price. This is not just a logo or a marketing claim. This is real information supported by verifiable data. This is a fundamental change in the way coffee trading is done. Transparent trading is the most important step towards an equitable income for producers. Coffee buyers from specialty to commercial markets are looking for higher quality beans and are willing to pay a fair price for them. Unfortunately, small farmers are the ones who regularly are left out from traditional certification systems. Ironically, due to the detailed care that coffee requires, small producers are the ones who have the biggest potential to produce better quality coffee. Our AI is able to make personalized recommendations to help them produce better crops. This is paramount to get them out of the poverty cycle. This creates a positive cycle in which growers that produce great coffee are rewarded accordingly, further motivating them to produce even better coffee. Coffee is the livelihood of more than 80 million people in developing countries. In Colombia, after the peace process, coffee is often the only alternative instead of growing illegal crops or getting into guerrilla groups. We have registered around 3,000 producers from indigenous communities, former guerrillas, and female heads of household. And 20 roasters have already believed in us. We are here because we need your support to continue with our mission and scale the technology to reach even more farmers in Colombia in the next year, link them to more buyers, and bring the solution to other producing countries. Our business model is a transparent fee for buyers. We are a complementary team of developers, agronomists, and business people who also love coffee and want to make this industry more sustainable. We are looking for partners that share our vision of a more inclusive coffee industry driven by technology. If you are interested in participating in some way, please reach out. More transparency, better coffee, better lives. Join us. Thank you.
My name is Kamal Shafiq. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Poket, and let's jump right into it. So today, 60% of adults are employed in the informal economy. And a lot of these informal merchants look like Ifemelu's chemist shop here in rural Lagos, Nigeria. Now, the challenge is that we know very little about Ifemelu's chemist shop because she's probably cash-based, could be undocumented, and is most likely offline and unmapped. And she's not alone. There's estimated to be more than 1 billion informal merchants globally that remain offline and unmapped, and many of these lie in rural parts of the world. These merchants are completely invisible and have no exposure to the global economy. And our team believes that there's only one way that we can solve this problem at scale, and it's by taking a crowdsourced approach. Poket is an Android application that allows users to earn income and rewards for generating data about these merchants. Our Android application is designed specifically for low-cost Android devices and low bandwidth settings that work great in rural areas. And it allows users to do three things. The first is add merchants to the registry by entering details. The next is actually answering questions about the things this merchant sells or the price points and earning a reward or income for their contribution. And then lastly, verifying and updating these merchants to make sure that the registry remains up to date. Once we're able to crowdsource this data, we aggregate it and we expose it on our analytics desktop dashboard, where we can then share the data with our partners in impact, enterprise, and also the public sector. Lastly, and most importantly, for the very first time, we're creating a digital identity for these merchants and bringing them online at scale. The best way to illustrate our impact and work is through a recent case study. We recently completed a paid pilot engagement with a global pharma company that's specifically focused on the distribution of glucometers. They didn't have an idea of where their glucometers end up in the last mile compared to their competition. And so we were able to uncover some really interesting insights. The results of our pilot were very exciting. The first thing that we found is that 70% of the outlets that Poket mapped didn't exist on any traditional mapping application. So these are really important shops that are completely invisible to the rest of the world. The next thing that we found is that more than half of these outlets actually didn't sell any type of diabetes products at all, which means that we generated a really great list of leads for our clients to be able to sell their product to. But most importantly, we're able to actually uncover which areas and communities were underserved and had poor access to medical supplies. In this case, diabetes. But as I speak to you today during a pandemic, this type of data can also be crucial for understanding gaps in being able to access essential supplies like PPE and eventually a COVID-19 vaccine. The best part is that we've proven that the unit economics work well for this type of platform. We charge the client around $10, which we're now looking to transition to a data as a service model, and we pass a portion of that revenue back to the user for generating insights on the ground. Our pilot users earned almost 3 times the average daily wage of Nigeria, which for us is incredibly exciting, and it reinforces why we need to embark on this journey now. Youth unemployment has never been higher in Africa. Pre-pandemic, it was at 30%. Poket has created a new form of work for young people to be able to earn using just their smartphone within their communities. The next thing is that the informal sector is only growing, expected to hit $2 trillion of transaction in 2025. 90% of these will occur in informal channels, predominantly in rural areas. And Poket, as we mentioned, is creating the first ever digital identity for these merchants that have traditionally been offline and invisible. And lastly, this idea could only be executed now. We are only now starting to see smartphone penetration reach a tipping point in sub-Saharan Africa. And remember, it only takes a small number of smartphones to be able to map out all of the merchants, even in a rural community where we have lots of people that are offline. In terms of our milestones, last year we closed a small round of funding. We launched our prototype in Nigeria, which very quickly led to a paid engagement with the global pharma company. And then that gave us the resources and opportunities that we needed to launch the platform in Nigeria. Now, this case study that we talked about was mostly focused on medical supplies, but generating this data for rural areas can help solve problems in many other verticals as well, such as financial inclusion, microfinance, last mile logistics, and also helping better plan and make data-informed decisions about building these cities and rural parts of the world. So we're really counting on MBR support to help us solve problems in these different verticals and also enter a second market later this year. And all of this is only possible with a great team that's diverse and experienced. I have a background in consumer goods and also in location analytics at a major telecom company. My co-founder James was born and raised in Nigeria and also has a software engineering background, working all the way from public sector to fintech startups. And my other co-founder leads the tech, is the CTO, an advocate for women in STEM, has her bachelor's and master's in computer engineering, and also Naba has been awarded the top 30 under 30 developer award for Canada, along with my other co-founder, James. So both James are top 30 under 30 developer winners. We're part of MIT Solve, and we're also selected as the top 25 startups in Africa to present at the next Einstein Forum this year. So with that said, thank you for your time in considering us as an applicant and also for hearing our pitch out today.
My name is Kevin Kang, and I'm the CTO of Takachar. Today I'm going to tell you a story of how we turn trash into cash. So more than 4 billion tons a year of biomass such as crop and forest residues is being burned. Not only does this represent a lost income opportunity for many smallholder farmers throughout the world, But this burning also can account for significant air pollution in terms of smog, as well as more than 18% of global anthropogenic warming. And this burning can even be seen from space, as you can see here. So the bottleneck, it turns out, is that biomass is very loose, wet, and bulky to transport. And therefore, for many smallholder farmers, it is not economical to transport it to the nearest centralized facility to turn it into fuel or chemicals. Indeed, after harvest, many farmers are in a hurry to clear their land, and therefore the most feasible way to do that is to burn the biomass in the field. What if, imagine that instead of burning the residues and leaving it with no value, that the rural farmers now can instead sell their biomass to the bioproduct market, access it for the first time, and therefore increase the net income by about 40%. That is the vision that Takachar is trying to build. Imagine small-scale, low-cost portable systems that can be lashed onto the back of tractors or even donkey carts, and that can deploy to rural farms requiring no external energy and fuel to run itself, and locally upgrade the crop residues on site after harvest into a densified form in under 30 minutes. This densified form then reduces the long-distance transportation cost by 50 to 70%, and therefore open up many rural smallholder farmers access to the bioproduct market for the first time. This technology was developed as my PhD thesis at MIT with 2 pending patents as well as 9 scientific publications. As you can see below, we've built lab-scale version and scaled this up to a pre-commercial prototype, which we're ready to deploy in field. So what kind of products can we produce? So it turns out that our technology can turn biomass into different sources of renewable energy, specialty chemicals, fertilizer, biofuels, or even additives. And for this presentation, I'm going to focus on our beachhead market, which is going to be on the specialty chemicals, which is a $5 billion per year value chain. To understand this market, let's meet Mr. Shah, whose job is to take crop residues nowadays from a network of farmers and process it into a precursor that goes into to become an activated carbon, which is a specialty chemical that is exported for use in water and air filtration and purification. And Mr. Shah has a big problem. That is that it's very costly for him to collect and centralize a lot of the biomass crop residues from his nearby farmers, to the extent that his input cost eats up more than 90% of his revenue, leaving him with a razor-thin gross margin. With Takachar system, we can reduce his input cost by about 20%. That may not seem like a lot of saving, but you can see that this more than doubles his net income. So the Takachar team consists of Bidit, who has a prior experience co-founding a biomass energy startup in the Himalayas, myself, Kevin, MIT PhD, who worked on a core technology for the past 8 years and also co-founded a previous biomass fertilizer startup that is still active and profitable today. And also Professor Ahmed Goning, an MIT mechanical engineering professor in the expertise of biomass conversion with more than 20 patents and 500 publications. And our advisors include people from the US Department of Agriculture, UC Berkeley Professor Cummings, Covalent Energy, and Bill Grow Foundation. And we have had support and recognition from people such as MIT, Cyclotron Road, and Forbes 30 Under 30. So far in our pilot, we've benefited more than 3,000 farmers in our network, creating more than $800,000 in equivalent additional income in rural areas, as well as sequestering more than 6,000 tons of CO2 equivalent. And with your help, we hope that we can expand this and hope that you believe our vision of turning trash into cash. Thank you very much.
Many thanks for another amazing display of innovations. Make sure you support your favorite finalist also on social media at Make for Prosperity and register for the award ceremony on September 6th on our website makingprosperity.com. Tomorrow, day 4 of our Make for Prosperity week-long journey, featuring global thought leaders Kenneth Kwok, Noor Sweet, Lucy Chow and Trey Gady, joining us for an exciting panel discussion, followed by our last, but definitely not least, 5 finalists pitching their groundbreaking solutions for the climate change challenge. Stay tuned.